Another edition of Living the Dream. I'm your host, Beto Duran. As always, thank you for listening, rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. And, we're throwing it on the YouTube page. Just go and check out Beto Duran. I told you, look, if you've been with me for the last 5 years, the name of the podcast is what? Living the Dream. And sometimes the dream don't pay. Like the podcast, I've told you over and over, doesn't pay you. I do it out of a labor of love. But I got wonderful reviews for Mark Medina from USA Today last week. Gustavo Arellano, Roberto Franco from El Paso has been on. And I told you, I'm going to keep doing it. But I'm going to bring you guests that are good. And you're like, okay, Beto, who do we got today from Sports World? We're not doing sports. We're bringing in badass people. That's what we're doing. That's what I've decided. You know what? Now that everybody knows how to do this stuff, because we're all doing everything virtual, let's just get going. As always, thanks to Mo Salam from Craft Beer Kings providing the beers. I'm recording this on Monday morning, so I'm not drinking your coffee beer yet, Mo, but I will have one later on tonight. As always, go to craftbeerkings.com and tell Mo I sent you. He'll give you a little discount on the shipping because they ship all over the United States. And I got to figure out a way if they ship to Texas, because that's where we're going today for our guest making her debut on the Living the Dream podcast. I've watched her for a few years on the national news level. Never met her, interacting on social media. But when you're watching TV and you're like, damn, that person is good. That's what I said the first time I saw Mireya Villarreal. She was covering some fires in Northern California. And I was like, whoa, like that lady is just strong getting into it. Because, sometimes when you have the fire coverage, it's like, oh, here's the fire. Then there's other people who run to the fire and their face is all dirty. You're like, that's a real reporter making her debut, CBS national news correspondent, or as I like to say, national news chingona, Mireya Villarreal. Welcome to the show, Mireya. How are you doing?
Oh, Beto, you're so amazing. I'm good. It's funny that you talk about those fires though, because I have to say, I love those pretty girls that go and cover fires, and their hair is just really, it's like they just got out of the salon, and they're wearing their fire yellow suit, and they are rocking, and I'm like, how do they even do that? And then I realized, I'm the idiot that's hiking up the freaking mountain to try and get to the flames and, do their thing. And so I just, kudos to everyone out there that even attempts to cover wildfires, but there is a clear difference. So I appreciate the love. So
thanks. I would be the one there with my pretty hair. I would be the one with the perfect makeup. And there's a reason I work in sports. Because in sports, there are no fires. There's achievement fires, but there's no natural breaking disasters. Like our good friend Nick Valencia, who has his emergency day bag, the bad day bag, where there's a helmet in there. The only helmets I worry about if it's a football helmet or a baseball helmet. You guys are wired different. You run to these stores. A shooting, let's go. A hurricane, where you were just covering, a tropical storm, that's awesome. I'm asking, how do you feel after that shot? You're dealing with real life disaster. That's got to be a rush, right?
Yeah, it's funny. First of all, I went to therapy this morning, so now I feel like this is another sort of therapy here. No, honestly, full disclosure, I think I've always, the news business, or in kind of what we do, our industry, every 2 to 3 years, you're always kind of looking for what's next, how do I climb, where do I, what's my next move, right? And then when I got to this level with CBS, I just found the place where I felt at home. Because I think it was a constant change, and it was this hustle all the time. And yeah, it's ooh, are you really gonna make that airplane that goes in 20 minutes? And you're like, yeah, I'm gonna make it. I don't know, my underwear will, And so you just that rush is what fuels me. And it's funny, I don't think we've talked about this before, but I started in sports in Laredo, Texas.
What?
And yes,
okay,
yes,
real quick.
I was gonna be the next Linda Cohen. I was gonna be the next Linda Cohen for real.
No way.
Joke.
Yeah. So normally I take a lot of pride in finding out when I have a guest their background. There's not much on you. It's just CBS national news correspondent from the Rio Grande Valley. So you were going to be Linda Cohen on SportsCenter?
I was like, this is, because, it was right around the time, so about 15 years ago when, first of all, Linda Cohen looked like Linda Cohen, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, besides the point, she's a badass. But yeah, I was in love with her, and also Dana Jacobson, which, by the way, shout out to Dana, because now I work with her and I cannot believe sometimes I get to sit next to her. She's amazing,
Mm-hmm.
amazing. But I would watch them and I'd just be like, this is what I want to do. I want to get into this world. I'm a huge, huge sports fan. And then I actually started to do it on news and I realized like, ooh, like your time is always getting cut. You go from 3 minutes and 30 seconds, for a show to like, oh, we got more weather, so you only get a minute for sports. And I mean, news is competitive. Sports is way more competitive too. I mean, especially for women. So, so I decided to kind of move on from that dream, but I continued in news media, and it works itself out. But yeah, I'm a big sports fan.
Look at you. Well, you're from Texas, right? So the Cowboys.
God, no. Are you now? I know you have not done your research.
No.
I am a down and dirty Baltimore Ravens fan.
How?
For real.
Why?
So
How?
here's what happened. Like, I actually spent some time interning for the Cowboys when I was in college, and it was amazing. And in fact, Quincy Carter
Uh-oh.
was their no joke, was their QB at the time. I think it was like Emmett's last year. I mean, there were all sorts of weird players, floating around that year. Dave Campo was like the coach. I know, it was weird. So it was a very odd time to be around the Cowboys. And just in general, they just are not my thing. And I think it's what it is like when you're young and you're from Texas, if you live anywhere south of San Antonio, the Cowboys are shoved down your throat. And it just wasn't my thing. I'm not a Jerry Jones fan. I'm not a Cowboys fan. Don't hate them, just don't love them. But at the time, I think this was right around the time that I started doing more sports and getting into it. I was looking for a team to really root for, to get behind. And Joe Flacco had just been drafted, and nobody knew who the hell he was. But man, he had that long arm with that bomb. Like, it would just go almost all the way down, from one end zone to the other. He just had that amazing gun. Doesn't have that anymore, clearly. But it was like, and then going to their stadium and being in that like atmosphere, like they epitomize what I feel like I bring to the table of news, which is like, they are hard workers, blue collar. They will get down and dirty, and they will cut you if you are not careful on the field. They will cut you like Tampa Bay Buccaneers style as well, But Tampa Bay,
I am not gonna. Okay, the first time I've ever had a guest tell me I will cut you. So Mireya Villarreal will cut you. So she's why the national news chingona right there. I will cut you.
Well, I mean, figuratively.
No.
I do that now. But I know people.
You are Rio Grande Valley. I've been to the valley a couple times, and it's a different type of place.
It is.
The first time I was down there for a fight, where were we? Brownsville? And I don't even. Hidalgo, whatever we were. I remember we were in a bar, and I ordered a Bud Light. The guy's like, "You're in Texas." Gives me a Shiner Bock. I'm like, I don't want that. He's like, you California guys need to learn some Texas beer. And he gives me a shot behind you. I'm like, bro, it's a Tuesday. Like, I don't need this right now. He's like, it's how we do it in the valley. I'm like, okay. Yeah. And did I argue? No, because I know that he will cut me. So I didn't argue with it.
He will cut you.
There it is.
Or keep your car. One of the two. It's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're like I said, I've never met you. Yeah, you're feisty. Okay, this is gonna be a fun podcast. So, okay.
Yep.
Mireya Villarreal growing up in the Rio Grande Valley, which is the Gulf of Mexico, that area. Who were you as a little kid? Did you always want to be a news reporter, or what did you want to do?
I come from a family of attorneys. I thought for a while I would be an attorney. I desperately, honestly wanted to be an actress growing up. Can you tell? But I lived in and grew up in a very traditional area, part of town or part of the country, and especially Hispanic. I mean, very Catholic, surprisingly conservative, just very, entrenched in like Mexicano culture. And so the idea of like dreaming big and going kind of outside the box was very rare. I mean, I tell people all the time, and it is nothing bad about the Valley. I love South Texas. I mean, those are my people. But the idea that you would leave the Valley and never come back, it's rare. I mean, people go to school and then they come back. They go and they see the world and then they come back. And so for me, the idea of being like an actress or even in the news, I mean, that was something that was so foreign to a lot of people down there. And so, including my family, including my parents. And so, I went to law school for a year and hated it.
No
Hated
way.
it. Yeah. I was really good at the bullshitting part of it, the talking, the advocating, but when it came down to like being competitive and studying and getting everything right that you need to get right to learn the law, I just wasn't into it. And it wasn't my thing. And so I took a break and never went back. And someone said, "Hey, I still think you could do like news. Have you ever thought about it?" And friend of a friend of a friend, as everybody in this business, says, "I think you'd be good at this. You try it, and then you just find what you're gonna do." And that was it. Took a part-time job in the back, getting people like coffee, running scripts, like printing out stuff, getting people's dry cleaning, like crap work, and then eventually kind of started to work my way up.
So you graduated from University of Texas, Pan Am, which doesn't exist anymore.
It does not.
It's now UTRGV. What's up? See, I told you I'd do my research. The school doesn't exist anymore. So you go to law school, and you said you come from a family of attorneys. Mireya, what do you mean you're dropping out of law school? It's hard enough just to get into law school.
Yeah.
And then you're going to say, "Hey, I'm not doing it"?
My dad, who, by the way, he passed away. He's been gone for about 8 years now. But my dad was the kind of person that, like, while he definitely wanted to see me become an attorney. I think he always had this dream of us working together. He was always like, his motto was like, there are no mistakes in life. There are just these learning experiences. And I mean, it was one of those things where it was hard. I mean, to tell my family, like, I think I'm going to take a break from this. Like, I don't think this is the right thing for me. And so, but I was going to a private school. It was expensive.
Where were you going?
Huh?
Where were you going?
I was going to St. Mary's Law School in San Antonio. It was not cheap. It was not coming cheap. It was not cheap at all.
But you go to your dad and you tell him, "Hey, Dad, I'm going to take this break." And you tell the family, "Hey, I'm not going to go back to law school." Did you have a plan? Because it sounds like they're like, "Okay, cool. If you don't want to and you want to go do real estate, you want to go do this, you want to go do that, great." You're going to say, "I'm going to go."
Yeah, it was so crazy thing. Again, back to the sports world. I was actually, they didn't cut me off, but it was pretty much being cut off. I mean, I was having to fend for myself. So I had 3 jobs. I mean, I was working at an attorney's office in San Antonio, so that I was still in the legal field. I was also still like interning for like a local judge, and I'm friends with all these people still, which is kind of crazy. Because it's been almost 20 years. And then I was working for the San Antonio Rampage, which was a feeder hockey team. Oh, you're going to Google it right now?
No, I know who they are.
Yeah. So I worked for the San Antonio Rampage because I had a marketing degree. So I did a bunch of like their in-house kind of like fun stuff. In fact, do you know his name is Mike something? He does like all the, whatever for some, anyways. Well,
in San Antonio, the ring announcer.
Yeah,
I know Tom.
He does back and forth now between California and Texas. But
I know exactly who you talk to. Good dude.
Yeah. So we kind of did the games together, and we would do everything from like, I would do microphone stuff to like getting people like excited about the game to doing marketing stuff. And so it really kind of fueled my like love for one, still kind of being in the limelight, being out there. And then at the same time, still be in the sports world. And so I don't know, and plus the San Antonio Rampage was in the San Antonio Spurs family as well, so that was also really a cool marriage. And so, I mean, it was good. I mean, I know everything from like, I know a lot of like, hockey terms as well. I know a lot of it. So, anyways, I did that, and like I said, I was just trying to figure out what can I really do, like what is really going to be what makes me happy and what I'm going to be good at.
That's why when I speak to journalism classes or college classes, I always tell them, like, look, everybody has a different path. Everybody, and if you're going to get into this business or no matter what you're going to do, follow your own path. It's going to go against the grain compared to what your family's going to expect, compared to what your tias are going to tell you, and there's going to be people questioning, what are you doing, what are you doing that? And if you're 22 and you have no idea what you want to do with your life, great. If you're 15 and you know what you want to do, I'm pretty sure it's going to change. Like, I was a 4th year junior college student when I took a journalism class because I was the smart kid, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I've told the story before. I thought I wanted to work in sports. That was my deal. I'll be a doctor. Forget chemistry. I talk a lot. Maybe I'll be a lawyer. I just wasn't disciplined enough to be a
Yeah.
student. Shout out to my lawyer, Curtis Gold, by the way, who I'm playing golf with tomorrow. He's a UCLA guy. Noticed the UCLA shirt behind my shoulder, living the dream. But if you're 22, you got to just believe in yourself. And that's what I tell everybody. Know that you have a plan, that you're believing in yourself, and chase your dream. But did you know what the dream was for you?
I didn't, and I think what it was, and this is what I tell a lot of high schoolers and people in college as well, is like, I could have graduated, or I should have, or could have. I graduated high school in 3 years. I just took a lot of classes, and I was always doing summer school, and so I was push. I am now still a very type A, and very much so perfectionist. And then also, when I was in college, same thing. I graduated in 3 years. And I played college tennis. So I also even played college tennis when I was in law school. It's very odd. But anyways, I had no idea what I wanted. I just knew I wanted to get there really fast because I wanted to get it done. And then I wanted to do this. And I wanted to be an adult. And the thing is I never took a pause to figure out, like, is this really what's right for me? Is this really what's going to make me happy? Is this what I want, or is this what my parents want? Mm-hmm. And I think that was the biggest thing, especially coming from a very traditional Hispanic family, was trying to explain to my parents that I was going to do news, because it just didn't resonate. Even still, I can vividly remember my mom in like my third or fourth job in news saying, like, are you sure you don't want to be a teacher? Like, are you sure? Like, there's a lot of stability in teaching. And on my dad's side, attorneys, my mom's side, a lot of teachers. And so I respect their profession, but it wasn't for me. And it was really hard to keep saying that because you don't know if it's going to work, and you don't know if you're going to fall flat on your face. And I think a couple of times I have, but it's tough. And even still at this level, it's a constant like fight and push to prove to people, like, not only do I belong here, but I'm going to stay here, and it's difficult. So no, I had no idea where I would end up when I was 21, 22,
Now, in college, did you take any journalism classes?
No. Well, I think I might have taken like one like speech kind of course or whatever that you're required to. But pretty early on, my mom especially, again, she was very adamant in like, where are you going to go that's going to actually get you a job, And so you just don't pick journalism or becoming a reporter as your profession. It just wasn't something that we even knew was a possibility. Now it's very different now, extremely different in schools and with guidance counselors and even counselors at the college level. So I never took a journalism class at all. I don't have a journalism degree. People all ask all the time, did you go to school for this? And I'm like, not exactly. Honestly, though, as you probably can attest, like, I'm not really sure I would have learned what I needed to at school. You got to get out into these newsrooms, and whether it's through internships or whether it's just getting your first job, like, because that's where you're going to learn. That's where you're going to scrape your knees up and your elbows.
Exactly. I tell people don't take journalism classes. Take the classes, but don't major in it, because it's not really going to help you. Get the internships, and then just get out there and work. And then now in this day and age where YouTube, everybody can become a reporter on their phone, right? It's just completely different from the way that we started years ago. All right, so take me the story. Take me to the path. You're supposed to be finishing up law school and making $100,000 with all the other people, yet you're probably in Laredo. You're in the Valley somewhere in Texas making $25,000.
Oh yes.
How happy were you though?
So I started part-time, and then and as a producer, I was a producer in the back. I wasn't even allowed to go on air, and so then on my off days, this is when we tell people all the time, like, the hustle, man. So I would work, Monday through Friday kind of job, as a producer, whether it was, associate producer and then also a weekend producer. And then on my off days, I would follow around the sports guy on the weekend so that he would let me shoot all my stand-ups, and then I would, do my stories, and I would retrack everything and whatever.
For
but
free.
I was always like,
for free, you're doing that.
Free. I would like, let me carry your stuff. Let me help you log this. Let me help you do this stuff. Let me help you edit it, And so that's how I learned, really. It was just all about that hustle. And so I would say about 6 or so months after, like, I started in the Valley at a small station, Laredo called up and said, we have a weekend anchor position that we'd consider you for. And if you don't know the business, Laredo is like, again, Love them. Still have a lot of gente there. But that is, I mean, you think the Valley is the armpit of Texas? Like, I mean, that is, Laredo is like, whew, like it is like crazy there. And it was right at the height of the cartels, and people were like, they were fighting over the border. But it was an amazing experience to work there. And I still have a lot of people that I know of that I keep in touch with that started in this small little tiny market. There's like 210 markets for TV, and I think this was market 190. I mean, it was bottom of the barrel. But that's where you like cut your teeth. That's where you make some mistakes. I mean, I looked like crap on TV, in the beginning. I mean, I sounded like it. I had no idea like how this all worked. And then that's where you learn. That's where you learn. So I spent about 2 years there, almost about a year and a half. And then I went back to the Valley to actually start in news. And I was there for about 3 years.
Sorry, we'll cut you off. Now that you're doing that, at the same time, are you telling yourself, I can do this? You just said, it's bad. You sound bad. Especially in your first job, you're like, damn it, did I make a mistake? Law school might not be a bad idea. And then you have your family telling you, mija, you know what? Go be the teacher. Like I would have you go to the quinceañera, the hating ass tias telling you, oh, Miko's over here doing real estate. This is like in the boom of real estate. And I'm like, damn, how's my 25-year-old cousin driving a freaking Mercedes? And I'm like, all right, but that's not for me. Like you believe in yourself, right? Like, did you ever think, maybe I made a mistake?
I never thought I made a mistake. Once I got into news, I kind of felt like this is where I needed to be. But I also was very self-aware that there were a lot of people that were better than me. And it was a matter of like, that's when I learned pretty quickly. Like I had a photographer pull me aside one day and say like, in case you didn't realize, like, we're a team. Like, me and you, like at that day, he was an older photographer that had been there for a while, and the point of him saying was like, I know you think you got to do this all on your own, but like this is a team sport, although you may not think it. And so for me, it became that's what it became for me, was this idea that like everybody has like this gift that they bring to the table, and it's really true in sports more than anything else. But if you use your gift the way you should, right, at its best, then like people should recognize it and they want part of it. They want to learn from you. And so I would pick people out in a newsroom and I would say like, I know I'm not good at this, but this person is. So I need to either be next to them, sit next to them, like buddy up to them, learn from them, ask them questions. I mean, I wasn't like stalker about it.
No.
But like it was a matter of constantly finding somebody in the room that I could learn from, and grow from. And I think I could probably name in every market, like every place that I've been, the 2 or 3 people that I did that with, because I mean, like, it's like that old saying, like, if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. Like, if you're the smartest person in your crew, you're in the wrong crew, And so it's the idea that, like, yeah, you may be the best manager, but like managers don't like run the show by themselves. Like they manage the situation and then they hire everyone around them that are the experts really in the field doing their best work, so it's kind of how I approach it right now.
I swear we're related, the way you think and the way it's going on, because my plan was, I gave myself my 3-year plan, 5-year plan, all that other stuff, and it was getting to a point where I'm like, damn, I'm not getting where I'm at. And I always tell myself, at least I tried. I always tell people, if you fail, cool, but fail trying, not I could have done that, but I didn't do this, I didn't do that. It's just not the way I think. And I was like maybe 3 months away from saying, you know what, this radio stuff's not working out. Cool, I tried it. I'm just going to finish up my degree and go be a teacher, and I'll be cool. Like, I was 3 months away from just being a history teacher, coaching baseball, and having a cool life, but being happy because I tried it. I was like, if I don't try it, then I'd kick myself. But we think the same way, because I always tell people, find somebody who's doing the job that you want, and find the successful people, make them your mentors, and bug them and get after it, because there's nothing wrong with asking for help. Like you said, if you're the best one there, forget it then. Like, I don't want to know. Like, it's a constant evolution, constant learning. And I know it sounds like I'm preaching now, but it's not. It's because that's the only way to succeed. There's a reason that these big billionaires all get together at a summit with, Summer Redstone and Warren Buffett and all these other guys, where it's like, okay, because they're still picking each other's brains. So when you're doing this, Mireya, I know that you must have got some flack for some of the colleagues. We're like, oh, look at Mireya over there kissing up. Oh, look at him. Like, she's trying to do too much. Overachiever. Did you get some of that? Yeah. That's your face, but I know you heard it.
Yeah, I I mean, like, the nicest way of putting it was I was a bit ruthless at times because even when,
Because I'll
especially
cut
if you're,
you.
yeah, a little bit. But now I can't cut you. Like, I can hire someone to cut you. You know what I'm saying? Like, like a part-time cutter. Um, but no, I mean, like in the beginning, like you have this, like I know everything. I mean, when you're in your 20s, you're like, I can do this. I'm better than this person. I've got the, the juice or whatever. And so, you don't realize that like you kind of don't yet, you
Mm-hmm.
don't really have the juice yet. And so I think for me, it did take, going through the first couple of jobs to realize that like, yes, this is a team sport, one, and two, like you can't do it by yourself. Like you can't do it
Yeah.
alone. And so I think for me, I would probably say like late 20s or so, I went from the Valley, doing news into San Antonio, and I was working at a station, WOAI, and it was an NBC station. And I remember the boss had hired me there, and we are still extremely close friends. And she's now the news director at the station. But I remember one of the best pieces of advice she gave me was like that the expectations that you put on yourself, you can't hold other people to those same expectations because you will constantly be let down, right? So it's the idea that like, yeah, you can be the type A perfectionist, but not everybody's going to be there. That being said, she was always clear in saying like, but we see what you're doing. Like, don't think it doesn't go unnoticed. And so you don't necessarily always have to feel like, you've got to always be the bright and shiny star in the room. Like you can take a break sometimes.
Yeah.
So, and that's a hard lesson to learn. Like, I think I'm still learning that right now, is the idea that like, I mean, if you keep pushing yourself to these extreme, unreal expectations, like, and you're not taking care of yourself, like something's gonna give.
Yeah.
Something's absolutely gonna give.
It's a weird balance as you're climbing this career. And Shelly Smith told me, a mentor of mine from ESPN, she's like, don't believe your own hype. Like, you're not as good as you think you are. And she meant that in a caring, loving way. I had just done Sports Center First Take. She's like, I'm happy for you. I'm proud of you. What are you going to do to get better? Because you were okay, but you weren't. And I didn't take that as like, oh, she's a hater, because which most people would take now. I was like, cool, she's looking out for me, wanting me to get better. All right, great. How do I get better? So your trajectory, you're climbing, you're going, you're this, you're that. You get to Dallas and you're like, cool, you're Mireya Villarreal, right? How the heck do you get to CBS National News Correspondent?
You know, mm, it's funny. I always word this. I'm always careful in how I word this, but I also think it's important to be real. Like, I think that pretty early on, CBS realized that they needed to diversify who they were bringing into the fold so that they could have people not just in front of the camera but behind the camera that look like the makeup of our country. And I think that was, at the time, it was a door barely opening for me. Like, it was this possibility, right? And so I think they wanted someone who was a Spanish speaker, bilingual, Hispanic. I think it was right place, right time for me. But at the same time, like if you're in this business, that can kind of screw with your head a little bit, because I mean, I was winning awards. I was respected by everybody in the business at my level, at the local level at that time. I was definitely, creating some waves in the DFW market and really getting my footing. And so when I got this opportunity, I jumped at it, but at the same time on the back end, I thought, like, is the only reason why I'm getting hired because I'm Hispanic and or Latina and and a female? Like, it really messed with my head for a little bit. Like, was I good enough to be at this level? And that took me a little while to feel like I deserved to be at this level. So that was really hard. But it was one person who said, like, no, you've got the juice. Like, and it was somebody higher up at CBS who believed in me in the beginning, and a couple people were a part of the team that brought me in, and then just constantly pushing and kind of just supporting me up a little bit in those first couple of years.
That is heavy right there, because you don't want to have that imposter syndrome of like, what am I doing here? Like, yeah, I'm good in Dallas. I'm big time. That's a big time market. I'm good here, but to be at national level, like, that's a different world. And when you look at the still the demographics now, I believe you're the only Mexican female that's a reporter for CBS, and like you don't find many of us on the national level in English, and keyword is in English. Everybody's like, oh, go to Telemundo. Like, we didn't even get into that conversation. Like, I don't speak like they do. Anyways, I had the same problem. Not the problem, but at ESPN, because when I got hired on at ESPN Radio, like, I would get tweets like, oh, what's the Mexican know about basketball? What do you know about this? I'm like, cool, whatever. I've always looked at it as, look, if you're going to question why I'm in, I don't care. I'm here. I'm doing it. Like, as long as I'm doing it, I don't care what the outside world is. My boss is taking a shot on me, and I might have only gotten hired to be the token for that week, but the responsibility I have to go and make sure that I do a great job, that way the next generation or the people behind us can find it easier for them. Like, Bernardo Suna knocked down doors for us at ESPN. He does a great job. So I have that responsibility. But I do know that when I got hired on, I made sure that I was going to double, triple outwork everybody, because you don't have an opportunity to fail. Like, you're being looked at through a microscope. And I'm on radio. I can only imagine that stress that you put on yourself, because you said it, your type A personality. How was that adjustment for you of you go do a story and everybody's telling you, great, Mireya, and I know just a little bit of I know you now, you probably went back and dissected it so bad.
Oh, no. And in fact, and I have to say, no, there were a lot of people that, because when you get to this level, like, I don't think you get as many pats on the back as you think you might, I don't, and I think a lot of it is because, like, they feel like, listen, you're an adult, you're at this level, we shouldn't need to coddle you, and I agree with that. I agree with that. But at the same time, I also had, I had a manager who was really, really hard on me. Really, I mean, I had never worked for anybody who didn't love me or love my work, right? And so to walk into the West Coast Bureau and to have a manager that was really, it's really hard for me how to describe her, because I never want to say anything bad about anybody, but our personalities did not mesh well together, and I think that in her own way she was trying to push me to rise to the level of what was coming out of that bureau. So I mean, you're talking about John Blackstone's of the world, Bill Whitaker's of the world. I mean, right now they have a Carter Evans, Jonathan Biggie. I mean, like, amazing correspondents that have come out of that West Coast Bureau. And for me to live up to that was one thing. But for me to do that and be the first, Latina woman, for a while, I was the only female west of the Mississippi. I mean, like, that was just, I mean, it was a lot of responsibility. And honestly, I was not in the right headspace to take that on, because it had been, it almost felt like it was a cakewalk, everything I had done before getting to the West Coast Bureau, because that was honestly, it was a huge punch in the gut to know that maybe I wasn't good enough. I mean, maybe I wasn't good enough. And also, and you hear people say this a lot of times, but maybe I wasn't Latina enough. I wasn't brown enough. I didn't speak good enough Spanish. I didn't have the look. I mean, it was a constant mind F. I don't know if I can say bad words, but it really was. It was a constant, battle within myself of whether or not I could do this. And there were a couple of times where I was like, I don't think I'm right for this anymore. Like, this is not for me.
Was that the first time you ever doubted yourself?
Yeah, 100%. I had never, ever doubted the fact that I was making a difference. I was advocating. I was putting out good journalism. It was a complete punch in the gut. And on top of all that, I was a new mom. Oof. And that was like, I mean, I would get on the road and I was doing 16, 18-hour days sometimes of, like, I would take a red eye here, and then I would go and do this, and I would do, 6 hits, and then I would pump in the middle of all of it, and then I was, and I was like, but it was all with the idea that you're right. Like in my mind, I had one shot. And I had heard the stories of people who had, taken the easy way and let other people write their stuff or do their things for them. And I was like, no, I'm gonna every day I got to bring it better than the other 4 people in this bureau. And it was, I mean, I nearly broke. I mean, I've never I mean, it broke my marriage. I mean, I have to believe that it broke my marriage. I mean, it became my obsession. It became my obsession, and it was unhealthy. It really was. So,
How did you
you know,
power through all that?
well, I am now divorced. Look, that you can't. The job wasn't the reason, right? Why my marriage didn't work. The job became a refuge for me after a while, and it still is. It is where I'm my best self a lot of times. Besides when I'm with my son. I mean, when I'm with my son, that is my best self. But at work, I also feel like that. I feel like it is my true self now. I think one, I went and talked to someone finally about it and tried to, and I still do. I mean, I think it is having, that self-awareness. But also, I have to say, there was a point where I finally started to lean on more people around me. And while maybe I didn't have a manager that liked me or, thought I was the best, there were other people around me that I started to lean on that were just looking to support me any way they could and see my success. And so it was almost like a turning point about 2 years into being in the West Coast. There was a point where, I mean, I vividly remember it. We were covering the Oakland warehouse fire. That was the one where there were a bunch of homeless people inside the warehouse. And I remember, there were like 3 crews on it. And so it was a constant battle, right, to get on air. And I stayed the whole time, right, which is a big deal when you're constantly fighting for airtime. And so once we were done, we came back and I was having this conversation with my manager at the time, who we didn't get along. And I remember her saying, I thought, you have these they call them, postmortems, where afterwards you come in, you go over your work, you talk about what you can improve on. And I remember thinking like, okay, well, I'm going to go in, we're going to have this discussion. And, we're going to talk about like maybe improving your writing, maybe some live shots, things we could have done differently, crews, logistics, all these kinds of things. And I sat down and I remember her saying, so there was this moment where you were chasing the warehouse owner, because by chance he had showed up in one of our live shots and I was trying to get him on camera and trying to talk to him and whatever. And I said, yeah. And I thought she was going to say that was good or, nice job or nice work. And she said, I noticed you were wearing stiletto heels. And I was like, well, yeah, I was wearing, an outfit. And she goes, don't you think they were too high? Like they look like stilettos. And when you hear, just, for women out there, when you hear the word stilettos, why don't you just call them what you're thinking, which is you're calling them the skanky shoes, right? And so she said, don't you think that you should choose your shoes more wisely as a national correspondent for CBS News? And that was my point. And I turned around and I said, no more. Don't ever talk about my shoes, what I'm wearing on air, my hair, or my makeup. I am a good journalist. And if you want to talk about my writing, my voice, you want to talk about my on-air presence as far as like you could have done things differently or put your hand in your pocket. Like, if you want to talk about that, like let's talk about that. But don't do that anymore. Like I'm done. I was like, you don't tell the men in this business, oh, that you've been wearing those same ratty ass New Balance shoes for the last 10 years that look like shit on air. But if you're going to comment about my shoes, never again. Never again. I was like, it's disrespectful. And honestly, it's probably against the law. So let's not be doing that anymore. And then that was it.
What did she say?
That was the point. She looked at me, and there was another person in the room who heard this entire conversation. And I don't know if this person will ever say that they remember it, but she just kind of looked at me and said, all right, that's all I wanted to talk about. I mean, I had been on this story for a week. Lots of people passed away in that story. We owned that story. And that was it. And then, after that, it was less and less and less of the, of the beatings. But it wasn't her really. If you think about it, it was me. It was me saying to myself, like, I need to put my foot down. I know I'm good at this. I know I need to improve on places, and I will work on that. But I have to be self-confident enough to just say enough. Like enough, so.
I don't pretend to understand what you go through. Because you're different level. Because the women are treated different. They're looked at completely different. I only work in sports, but I see how women are objectified when they come into a locker room or a studio, no matter what. How did you deal with that without cutting her? Like, you try to be no because
Well, just so you know, she was also Latina, so there may have been equal cutting back and forth.
well,
You
okay.
know.
Let me ask you this then. Why do you feel like she was harder on you? Because was it personal? Was it jealous? You know what? Maybe let's not get into that because that might get you
No,
in trouble with your boss.
maybe a little bit. I think it's also why my mom was hard on me. I mean, and obviously very extreme differences. I love my mama, by the way. Mom, I love you.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think Hispanic, especially Mexicana daughters and moms, they have this very different relationship, and there is love behind it. But like it's like the other day I posted on Instagram how my mom called me, right, because I was doing a story, a good fun story on CBS Evening News, and I was eating a gordita in it, and my mom called me the next day and said, I have one question for you. And I was like, what's that, Mom? And she goes, well, did you work at all yesterday, or did you just eat the whole time on camera? It's like this, like that's the relationship I think a lot of, Mexican daughters have with their Mexican moms.
Yeah.
I think maybe some of that toughness that I was getting from this manager might have been a little bit of, she knew what was at stake, right? I know it's at stake now. Mm-hmm. Maybe at the time I didn't as much, or I didn't understand it as much. I agree with you. Like, I think that, we do have this role. It's not just, my role isn't just being a journalist for CBS. It's not just covering the news. Like, I now have taken on this new role as, as someone who is helping pave the way for the next, generation of young Hispanic, Latinx, Latino, whatever you want to say, journalists. And it is not easy. It is not easy. And so maybe in her own way, she was trying to figure out whether or not I was strong enough to do that. Because even though she's not there anymore, I do say there are a lot of things that she taught me that I learned in that bureau through her that I now take with me, and I know are good things to take out in the field and strong values to have. And so, again, I wish her all the best wherever she is and whatever she's going to be doing in the future. But it was hard. But I do think that may have been where some of it came from. It's this idea that there aren't a lot of us in this business, and so you need to bring it every day.
And that's just in anything that you do. Bring it every single day. When did you realize, you know what, I fucking belong here? Like, I'm Mireya Villarreal, fool. What? Say something. Like, when did that click? Like, I don't care what I'm doing. Like, I am badass. When did that click for you?
I don't know if I 100% feel that way all the time still. There's always those moments of like, ooh.
Yeah, because you're type A. You're never going to say it.
Yeah, it's always.
But, okay, when did you, like, get, like, after that, be like, damn, hell yeah. What did you feel like,
Yeah, I think when we, and I will full admit, like, I was doing solid work after that point. Like, I would say about 3 years in, I felt comfortable with where I was in the West Coast Bureau. Things were going well. And then stuff along the border really started to break in South Texas and in El Paso especially. President Trump had come in. He was really changing immigration policies. And a lot of what he was doing was truly affecting the border. And so I went down there. And in the beginning, I wasn't even kind of leading the coverage for CBS. It was a fight to even get down there to do this coverage. And then it just started to go. And I was there week after week after week after week. And I think that was the point where, I think for us, like as Latinos, sometimes we almost sometimes resist our Latino-isms, like we kind of try and suppress it a little bit because you don't want it to be so like in people's faces. You want to be respectful. And that was the moment where someone, an extremely strong producer who was with me in the field once said, like, you don't have to give your opinion, but like where you come from matters, especially in this kind of reporting, because you've grown up here. Like, what these borders are like. You saw the original wall go up. Like, you've got to talk about that because those are things no other reporter is going to be able to explain and to show and to give that perspective. And so for me, I think that was the moment where I was like, this is where I belong. Like, this is where I can give my best self, and that authenticity is now what I try and bring on every story. It's not easy, but that's the moment. So about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, I say.
Does your mom still want you to be a teacher?
No, but But there's always that kind of like that. There's always that chirping in the back about about saving money and don't be spending on no more shoes and don't be spending on no more clothes.
Yeah.
Save your money for a rainy day.
You don't need any more stilettos, okay? We got it.
That hurts, but that hurts.
It hurts, but hey, what are you gonna do? But this goes to what you're talking about, and I'm going through this myself now. Also, I've always wanted to just be known as the best reporter, the best one out there who happens to be Latino. Like my name is Beto. White guys can't say it. They call me Beto, whatever it is. Like, especially when you're doing Sports Center, they never say, this is before Beto O'Rourke came out, right? Before he made the Beto stuff. So and people are like, you never correct them. I'm like, bro, if I'm gonna worry about them saying my name wrong, and you're missing the point that I'm on fucking Sports Center, like I'm at the Laker game reporting nationally on Sports Center, like. How about you focus on that part? So it's just like all that little chirping back and forth of like, you should do this, you should do more for this, or that. I'm like, when you're in your 20s and 30s and you're trying to climb in this career, it's like you got to pick your battles about certain things. And I've always had like that resistance towards me from certain groups, like, you don't do enough for us. I'm like, look, I go to schools, I do this, I know exactly who I am. I will help out anybody who needs mentorship. I give everybody my number, no problem. But it's that part of like, you're not Mexican enough. Like, when I don't speak with the all the time, right? Like, it's like, dude, that's how we say it. It's like, I grew up in LA. Like, it's just different world. So what does Selena's dad say? We're not Mexican enough for the Mexicans. We're not American enough for the Americans, right? And you lived it on the border. So did you ever get some of that too of like, hey, Mireya, why don't you play up your ethnicity? Did you ever get some of that?
It's funny. There were been a couple of times like how do you say Tijuana?
Tijuana.
Tijuana.
Yeah.
I say Tijuana sometimes. It doesn't sound like I got grilled for not saying that perfectly. Like,
well, they want you to say Tijuana.
Yes.
Well, your name is not Miranda Villarreal, blah, 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 like the Simpsons character, right? Like, you're not a cartoon.
Yeah. I think it goes both ways. It's funny because I've gotten some hate from people saying like, you're on an English station, you need to say your name like the way the rest of us do. Or like, so it goes both ways, dude. Like, or why don't you go back to journalism school and say your name right?
I never went.
It shows you I didn't even go to journalism school. But no, I mean, it's either like it's too much or too little. And so finding that balance is difficult, man. It's a constant.
It's a constant. Yeah, I think that's what just me and you needed to vent about that. But anyway. We got there. Like, dude, honestly, your name is hard to say, right?
Dude, I know.
Did anybody ever tell you to change it?
No. What's crazy is so I had a boss in San Antonio, and different from the female boss that gave me that really great advice. But he did too. I had just gotten married, and my married last name was Gideon. So legally, all my paperwork and everything is and I shouldn't have probably said that, but it's changed back now anyway. But at the time, I was like considering because even Mireya Gideon kind of sounded like maybe I could pull it off because all the Mexicans would have said Gideon.
Gideon. You're a Spaniard, aye.
Yeah. And I asked my boss. I said, hey, what if I even hyphenated it? Which that would have been even weirder because then there would be like a long ass name, Yeah. And he said, no, don't. Like, look, you started in this business as Mireya Villarreal, and he's like, I know you think it's hard for people to say, and it is, but everybody will say it their own way, and you just got to roll with it. He's like, but this is who you are. Like, you've got to own it. And he's like, and trust me, you're Hispanic. It works for you. He's like, and it's going to serve you well. And it has.
There's only one Mireya Villarreal. There's only one Beto Duran, or Beto Duran, or Bert Duran, whatever you want to call it. Like, it's a...
Actually, no, there is another Mireya Villarreal.
Shut
no
up.
Joke, dude. She's on, she does like hair accessories. And let me tell you, there have been some nasty posts about me thinking it's her and vice versa. Yeah, no joke. There is another. That's why on my Instagram, it's at the real Mireya Villarreal. I wasn't trying to be like all like showy, but that lady has the Mireya Villarreal on the Instagram. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. She does like hair products or something like that. So
What's up,
yeah.
dude? Little collab right there. Little collab.
We should. The two Mireyas getting together. Yes.
I got the Beto Duran is a Colombian photographer who owns BetoDuran.com, Beto Duran Instagram, Beto Duran, all that. And I try to buy. I'm like, dude, you got 400 followers. Like, come on, homie. He's like, nah. I'm like, damn it. That's why I'm Duran Sports on Twitter. That's why I'm Beto Vision or Beto Vision, whatever you want to call it. Like, I can't have my own name. I'm like, of all the times. Of all the
I
times.
know. I'm telling you, I feel your pain on this. Who would have thought it?
You're right there, amiga. You're right there. All right. Now, let's go back to the story that you did about the tacos. And I tweeted it the other day. You can go and check it out on YouTube. It was a story that went viral on Twitter. And I tweeted that only you could have told that story the proper way. Somebody else could have came in, but you were able to speak with the taco truck owner in Spanish. And you tagged it with something that hit me. And I'm like, well, tacos are made con amor. Right? Not the Juan Gabriel mucho, mucho amor, but just like amor. Like,
Yeah.
anybody else can go and tell the story of this, but it seemed like you felt that man because he was from your area. Tell the story of what happened here.
Bueno, yo pregunto, ¿qué es su secreto de los tacos perfecto? You know, and he understood English. And I always ask people like, you know, can I speak to you in English, Spanish? And a lot of times because we're CBS News, you know, you have to do a little translation, but even that takes time and it's a little bit odd. And so I asked him, I said, you know, ¿quiere hablar en español o en inglés? And he said, bueno, en español. Yo, you know, but he had been in the country for 30 years. He is, you know, he's here legally, all those kinds of questions asked and answered. And, but he just felt more comfortable in Spanish. And I could tell, and as a journalist, you can feel it. You can feel when people are comfortable in that moment. And so, yeah, it was, you know, you have this guy who, you know, like most small businesses out there, had some really rough times with the pandemic. And then on top of it all, in this area that he had set up his taco truck, there was construction, so he was having to move. So all his regulars had no idea where he was. And, you know, this guy's older. He doesn't have, you know, the Instagram. At the time, he didn't. Instagram, Facebook, you know, all these other things. And so he calls up his daughter and says, like, I got to close early. He's like, I've only made $6. And, like, $6, like $6 in a day, and like you're sitting in this hot, nasty truck in Humble, Texas, just outside Houston, and it's just like you got to be thinking to yourself. Speaking of, I mean, questioning yourself, you know, like, man, like, what am I gonna do? Like, how am I gonna, you know, how am I gonna survive here? And the daughter did the only thing that she could do in that moment, put it out on Twitter, and she said she got so many responses. It got so out of control. She had to do her tweets protective, because so many people were reaching out to her asking if they could help. I mean, it was crazy. And within a day, business blew up. So much so that they are now obviously looking for workers because they need help manning the taco truck as often as they want to stay open and help serve people. So it was just good. Plus, this dude is legit. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Let me tell you, in the beginning, I would never tell this to anybody, especially if I'd started 6 years ago. Mireya at CBS News would not have said this, but like, when I go on assignment somewhere, there are two things that I look for when I get to the town. Where are the best places that I can get tacos, and where is the best place I can get conchas? And let me tell you, best conchas by far, El Paso, Texas. Amazing. Tacos is different. Like, this place was pretty legit. Like, this place was pretty good. I mean, of course, you're always gonna have amazing tacos in Mexico, in Tijuana. I mean, there's some amazing spots.
Everywhere.
This guy was good. Yeah, this place was good. But like, those are like the comfort foods that when I'm on the road, like, that is gonna just kind of get me through the 7 days a week that I have to bust ass.
You tell the story. You put yourself into it, and it's great seeing it. And it was cool. Go check it out on YouTube. Just put in Mireya Villarreal CBS. It's actually on the CBS account. Very cool. All right, your career. How happy are you?
I'm really, really happy right now. I mean, I have goals. Yeah. We don't need to be discussing that right now. No. But I'm really happy. I mean, CBS is an amazing place for storytellers, journalists to go out and do their thing. And there's a lot of trust at where I'm at right now. I have an amazing team around me, even like from the guys who are, you know, other correspondents with me. I mean, we have like, in the South, it's Manny Bajorquez, Omar Villafranca, Janet Shamlian, and what's his name? Oh, he's going to get so mad at me. Mark Strassman out of Atlanta. But I mean, you have like this amazing crew down in the South on top of everybody else around the country. And we just take care of each other, you know, like we all work together as this big dysfunctional family, you know, so it's good.
Dysfunctional family.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, if we all got along, you know I'd be lying.
Oh,
there's a bunch of Latinos up in this Southern Bureau, you know. But no, I mean, we all get along really well. We're all, I mean, it's a good family, and I'm excited and happy to be back in the South covering news down here. It's crazy, let me tell you.
Now, if you would have told 22-year-old Mireya, hey girl, you're gonna quit law school and you're gonna do this, you're gonna be a CBS national correspondent, would you have believed you or doubted you or what?
Oh, hell yeah, I believe me. I'd be like, let's do it. Come on. Come on, sign up. I'm up for this. You know, if 40-year-old self told 22-year-old self how hard it would have been and all the work and everything that goes into it, I don't know. That would have been a little bit hard. But like, it's the hustle. Man, the hustle is amazing.
Right?
It's I live for the hustle.
It's fun. Yeah. Like, even me. I'm in this garage doing this with you, and you texted me. You're like, "Hey, can we do this today?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, let's do it!" Like, luckily I wasn't playing golf because you know I'm a golf influencer now. Because I got I got nothing else to do. But it's more of like the hustle, the chase, and it's like during this pandemic, I'm trying to reinvent myself, trying to figure out what I'm gonna do next because in the sports world, a lot of the jobs have gone away. Like, I work a lot of boxing. There ain't no boxing going on. Like, what am I gonna be doing? What's new? What's next for me? But I still feel inspired. Do you still have that juice in you?
I do. Every day, man, every day. And it's funny, I use this quote and people laugh at me so hard, but hopefully you'll appreciate it. Before Meta World Peace was Meta World Peace, he was Ron Artest. And I remember Ron Artest saying, pressure, I make love to pressure. And dude, I heard that, and honestly, like, that is my motto most days of the week, because I know people do not like stress in their life, but stress and the juggling and the hustle, like, that stuff motivates me. But I will say this, like, you know, it is a credit to you, and I will do anything for you and for Nick and most of the people on the Latino Media All-Star Runners. Here's the thing, like, I was at a really rough place personally about 6-8 months ago. And I knew that things needed to change, right? And so I started to work out a whole lot more. I mean, the only thing I could control in my life in a pandemic was like working out, really. I mean, what you're putting in your mouth and then going out for a jog or whatever. I mean, you were by yourself early on, and you and Nick started this, Latino Media All-Star Runner, and
as a joke on
Instagram. And in the beginning, I'm like, what the heck is this? And why didn't I get in on it? I'm Latina, And so I reached out to you guys pretty early on, and I was like, I want in. I want into this fake silly club, but let me in. And honestly, like, I think that to see the reach of people, not just within, our industry, but even outside of it. I mean, I have friends from down in South Texas that retweeted. I have people in San Antonio, the West Coast, East Coast, like people live in New York that aren't even Latino but work for CBS are like, hey, could you tag me in this? I was inspired by you, and so every once in a while I'll give a shout out, But honestly, like, that has done me so good to know that there's just like other people out there going through the same struggles that I am, and we're all this big weird Latino, Latinx family. Sometimes we love each other, and sometimes I'm like, damn, I can't take no more of Nick saying, let me holla at you. let me holla at you. And I'm like, not today, Nick. Not today.
Yeah, but let's peel you behind the curtain there. Nick Valencia, CNN reporter, who's been on the podcast a few times. One of the few repeat guests on Living the Dream, and Mireya, I think you and I are going to start our own show the way we're going right now. This is flowing, this is vibing. I didn't realize that we've been on for 58 minutes. It feels like 2 minutes. Like, I swear, you remind me of my sister Gloria, who's awesome, by the way. So we started. So Nick runs. I hate running. So Nick Valencia, and he would tag. He's like all inspiring, and like Nick, we love him. He gets all emotional and motivational, and like, so I love harassing him. He's like the little brother. I love harassing him, right? So Nick is like, great. So he's running, and I was like, dude, what do you like? I've always in the NBA world, I created this fake club. I'm just a smartass. I'm just like that punk kid that's a smartass to everybody.
You're that troll. Let's
be
honest.
Yeah. I'm good. I take the shots. I would be a great media critic. So I would, in the NBA world, I created the Latino Media All-Stars because we were in the Lakers media room one day, and I look around, and Mark Spears from ESPN and J.A. Adande from ESPN were looking around. I was like, damn, man, look at all these Mexicans in here. And we're like, as a joke. And then Mark is from Oakland, Jay's from LA. He goes, yeah, it's just us three. I was like, yep, we're the Latino Media All-Stars. Because the joke was, there are no Latinos covering the NBA. This is like 2008, 2009, something like that. 2009, because Twitter had just started. So they're like, that's the club. So it became, all the African-American writers became part of the Latino Media All-Stars. As a joke, right? That's what I do. I create these jokes, right? And like inside, just taking shots at everybody. So I told Nick, I'm like, you're the Latino Media All-Star runner. That's who you are, Nick. You're our runner. So I would go on my Instagram and post that I'm running, like stupid. I wasn't even running. I was out on my bike, whatever. Anyways, he's like, Mireya. He's like, Mireya's a world runner. I was like, that's Mireya Villarreal, CBS National News Correspondent Chingona. Like, I don't know her. I'm not going to tag her on our stupid little runs that we were going back and forth. He's like, oh, no, she'll like it. Then I was like, okay, she's actually running. So as a joke, I created this Instagram account because my friends in our group chat were like, we get it, Beto, you're running. We get it. We see on your Instagram, you're running all the time. We get it. You invented this new thing called running, Beto. So I created the Instagram, and I was going to have it for like a week and then just delete it, right? Just to make Nick feel like it was all cool. Next thing you know, we had 100 followers. Next thing you know, it's growing. And then people are tagging each other, and it's now become a legit little community for members of the media to tag each other running because we go through so much different stuff. And I know that we've reached out to different people, and now everybody tags their run in the morning just to have a little a community. And it's one of the few things I've ever done where there's no hate, there's no shit talking. It's like, oh, you ran 8 miles? Normally I'd be like, what, you think you're all bad, fool? You ain't nothing. It's like, cool, congratulations. Like, Mireya, like, I just landed off a plane. I'm hit the tarmac running. Like, I'm like, good. You know what? I'm going to go run too. There's not enough positivity amongst the Latino media. Like, because it's there's a lot of, like you said, crab in a bucket mentality. It's like, oh, you think you're all bad, fool? Like, all right. But we've created a fun little community. We love Nick Valencia. And like we said, you're the queen of the Latino Media All-Star runners. And
well, my grandma used to call me La Reina too, so I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. I don't mind it.
So you've been La Reina since you were a kid. It explains the...
Bing. Yeah.
All right, so that's enough about your career. Let's get on to the fun stuff. Dude, you're like a hip-hop head.
Dude, I had to tell you. Okay, so I will say, I mean, what is this? We're already getting into it. I mean, pre-marriage, I felt like there was a lot of country up in our, marriage. A lot of like, a lot of like, I don't know, like smooth jazz. Like I don't know. But the reality is, like deep down inside, there is like a hip hop thug in here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I love the old school stuff. I'm not the best at like some of hardcore stuff coming out of Tupac, but I was a little bit more mainstream. I love Junior Mafia. I was a big Mace fan back in the day. I do love me some P. Diddy, some Notorious B.I.G. But I like Nas a whole lot. And if you listen to Nas, I mean, he is a lyricist. Like he is, I mean, that dude can write. And so then you go into like the Kendrick Lamars of the world who, I mean, like, now you talk about authenticity. I mean, that dude is bringing it, like bringing it. And then sometimes I just feel like I need some down and dirty, punch you in the nuts kind of rap, and that's my Eminem. I mean, I know people are going to be like, no, that's not what I want. No, dude, you need to listen to this new album that he put out, and that is some straight up hardcore, like, he is not holding back anymore. He doesn't need to. No apologies.
It sounds like you. No apologies, not holding back. Now, you're also Mother of the Year because your awesome son, who I say looks like the kid that comes in the frame. He looks like the little model that comes in the frame right there. Like, tell me he doesn't. Of course you're going to say he does. But he looks like a little model. Great job. What were you doing with him and Biggie?
Oh, so...
Yes. How old is he? Because he's all about Biggie now.
Okay, so here's the thing, like, so if you haven't gotten it already, like my ex is white, he is white, he's Anglo, and I am not, and so
shocker.
And my son got the best of both worlds. I'm telling you, I mean, so there's a lot of goodness coming out of that relationship, but I think what it was is like I am deathly afraid of my son not having any rhythm. Like it keeps me up at night. Let me tell you, And so I thought, like, maybe if I early on get some, like, thug in my son, like, maybe it'll just, like, and so right now, like, we jam. I mean, like, we listen to Motown here. Like, he said, like, I'm not going to say too loud because she's in the other room. Like, I'm like, Alexa, turn on Motown. Like, my kid knows how to tell her to turn on the radio. And so I wasn't sure about. I mean, like I try and let him listen to the hip hop rap that is the not explicit stuff.
the clean version,
Yeah,
the
like,
clean version.
yeah, the radio edit. And so what really got him about Biggie is, back in the day when Junior Mafia was putting some amazing stuff out, their freaking videos were off the chain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that one of the ones that he the Hypnotize is where they are like in a speedboat and people are coming after him. And that is what really got my son. So once he saw that and he's like, oh, look at P. Diddy is driving backwards in the car. Like, he didn't care about the lyrics. Like, that just eventually came along with it. It was more like the optics of it all. So.
You're showing your son P. Diddy and Biggie videos.
I mean, he also watches the news,
No,
too.
no,
I mean,
Mother of the Year. No,
yeah,
hide him from the news. Hide him from the news, but like Mother of the Year right here. Like, he's got the shirt. He's got some.
I felt like I just want to look.
He's got some thug passion.
No joke or anything. Like, he might be little. He will be little growing up. I mean, I'm petite. My ex is not that big either. Like, if he's not bringing height to the table, he's got to bring some swag. You know what I'm saying? Like, so early on, I'm gonna teach this kid to bring that
yeah.
I know Biggie. I know Biggie.
My mama taught me right. And the same thing. Like I said, you got to do the influence with the kids. And like now, my son, he plays basketball, and his teammates get in the car, and I'm like, they'll put on some stuff. I'm like, no. Go back 20 years. This is what you guys need to listen to. This is like mumble rap. No. It's cool. And also, you're not just an old person, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're young and hip now. Because who followed you recently?
Oh, Snow the Product followed me, dude. I'm not even lying. So here's the thing. Here's how that went down. So, I'm really into, so here's where it started. This is the progression, So I'm listening to some Eminem recently, and I had heard Jessie Reyez, a while back when she first came out. She won, Best New Artist. This was, a year or two ago. And so, but she does this collab with Eminem, and that thing is sick. If you are, in a bad way, in a bad breakup, you listen to some Jessie Reyez, and that girl, she will cut you with her lyrics. So I wanted to listen to other Hispanic, Latinx artists. And so I was kind of just looking around, Googling things, and Snow the Product come out. And I will say this, if you were to just, because Snow the Product had come out on one of my, suggested artists to listen to before, and she does not look Mexicana, right? Mm-hmm. If you look at her with her pink hair. So she came out with this song called Gaslight, which, I just got a divorce. Gaslight makes sense. So I listened to that, and I was like, dude, this thing is great. So then fast forward a few weeks, I'm, doing some research on hip-hop artists, Hispanic hip-hop artists, and this comes up, and I'm like, the Product is Latina? I didn't even put two and two together. So then I really start to listen to her stuff, and I was floored. I mean, she's been around for a few years, probably even more than that, doing some stuff in, underground garage kind of stuff, but, her stuff is good. It has a good beat. It has, she is no apologies kind of rapping. I mean, and she's from San Jose, Mexicana, and that's another thing. You don't have a lot of Mexican, Mexican American, hip hop rap artists. And then female, I would play that. And then I just really enjoy her stuff.
Have you guys communicated?
We haven't. So I've tagged her in a couple of Insta posts, and she's liked them and stuff like that. But I haven't had the balls yet to actually reach out. But
okay, you run into fires, you go into earthquake buildings, hurricanes, but you won't send a message to somebody who follows you.
Well, I know. I mean, it's one of those things Cecilia. I know Cecilia Vega actually from ABC News also followed me a few weeks ago too, and I was just like, shit, so I don't know, it's one of those things, I don't want to fangirl. I already fangirl on Dana Jacobson quite a bit, so I gotta chill a little
Dana's
bit. I don't
cool
want people
though.
to think I'm crazy.
Yeah,
dude, she's good.
I'm not gonna say I did a first take with Dana for a whole week, but I'll drop that in there right now.
Okay, all right, I see you. Hey,
yeah,
hey,
I wasn't invited back though.
You're not bringing pizza to the table. I don't need to hear it.
I said, I wasn't invited back, so you're all right. That's not good idea. No, I was feeling it. Hey, all right, Renee, you're cool, awesome. I've been posting your Instagram on if you're watching on YouTube. Twitter is CBS Mireya, Mireya. She's professional there. IG is where you get the thug passion, the real Mireya Villarreal, and you post your playlist when you run. So like if people get to see the personality of who you are. Like honestly, I've never met you. This is the first time we've actually had a conversation. You're awesome. Like you're like really cool. We gotta do this again very soon. I gotta figure out to somehow get you. You drink beer or wine? Which one do you drink?
I actually don't think I'm bougie. Don't think I'm bougie, but I do. I like a prosecco. I like a sparkling, basically.
You bougie?
bourbon.
I'm all about it because I am the fancy Mexican.
I know you don't drink bourbon though. I know you don't drink bourbon. Let's just be honest. You got some bourbon there?
I just got tequila. That's all I got.
That doesn't surprise me one bit, Mexicano.
Because I am sponsored, so don't trip, boo, don't trip.
Okay. When I get my Basil Hayden, sponsorship, I'll let you know.
Dude, are you allowed to have sponsors? We'll talk off the air.
Do they sponsor Latinos though? I don't know.
Right. Hey, as Nick would say, if you're trying to get anything sponsored, come to me. I'll help you out because we can. If it's free, it's me. Give me 3. Don't worry about it. Right there.
Got it.
All right, real quick hitting questions for you, Mireya. If you weren't a reporter, what would you have been?
I mean, I keep going back to I don't know, teacher, actress. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's a hard one. Lawyer. I would have tried to get a lawyer.
Some of your favorite movies.
Oh.
Just some.
Man, the other day, I'm not going to lie. The other day I watched Heathers. I mean, I know that. Why are you laughing, dude? Why are you laughing?
Because I can see you in it.
Dude, I know. That's
I
so
can
bad.
see you. Before the podcast, I would have said, no way. Now? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Love Actually, of course. It's so cheesy. I actually like cheesy girl movies.
Okay.
I don't know. That's a tough one, man. You can't get me on that. Oh, I will say this. My dad and I used to always watch, and I still love them, Die Hard movies. Dude, I'm a Die Hard fan.
Hey, they're Christmas movies.
Yeah.
They're Christmas movies.
Yeah, I think it's a Christmas movie. I will say this. I will totally say that, yeah. So those are some of the ones that just come top of head.
All right, you grew up in Texas. Do you know how to ride a horse?
I do know how to ride a horse, yes. Yeah. I'm not good at it. It probably doesn't look very, pretty, but, yes, I ride a horse.
All right.
So.
How long before you lost your y'all accent?
It still comes back. And, in fact, when I'm out in the country, and all of a sudden I'm like, hey, y'all want to go do this? Or, I have some Fort Worth friends that, once you get in that, mom group and they start talking, it's just, comes right back. No, I do not have an accent. But it's you get it by osmosis, almost we're drinking the same water, although right now you shouldn't do that because of Corona, but you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it comes back. But y'all comes back quite a bit, the y'all, but I try and temper that. So more Valley Girl comes out than anything.
What's the Valley Girl sound like?
Well, the other day I was like, "Hey, puta sucia," and I I was mad. I was talking about someone, and I said, "I puta sucia." And then the other day, my kid. So the other day, my kid goes he's like, well, because in the morning they tell you to give, if you want your kids to eat healthy, right? You give them choices, so they think that they have that they're making the decision. So the other day, I said something hey, we have avocado toast, or I can make you some waffles with peanut butter on top of it, with almond butter or whatever. And he's like, I don't want any of that. And I'm like, oh yeah, o come caca. That's kind of that's what I say. That's what comes out.
You can't offer the kid avocado toast or almond butter and then go Valley cursing like that.
Hey, you know what? I'm like, this is not a restaurant. Come caca. And he goes, what? He never heard that word before because I don't really I've not told him the bad words in Spanish, caca, And so yeah. So then I had to scale it back a little bit.
Oh my, that's yeah. You know what? I learned this. Having traveled Texas for boxing, don't mess with people from the Valley, at all. Fidel Martinez, who runs the LA Times.
Corpus is not the Valley. Let's just get that straight right now. If you're talking Corpus, Corpus Christi is not the Valley.
No, Corpus is the big city. I found out.
Yeah, sure.
Corpus is where I had a Whataburger for the first time, and I saw Whitecaps, and
okay.
Yeah, I was I'm running on the. I'm like, what is it? Why are these waves looking like this? They're like, those are Whitecaps. I'm like. You can tell I'm from LA. I had Whataburger. Our cab driver was a guy named Wildman, who also worked at the. He's like, my name's Wildman, and he's like, you're not from here. I was like, no, we're from LA. I had a Golden Boy shirt on. He's like, oh, the boxing tomorrow at the Rob Bank, whatever the arena's called. He's like, yeah, I'm an usher. I'll see you there. I'm like, all right, you do it all here in Corpus. But the Valley, because Ramon Ayala, What's up?
Yes.
That's the guy. You got to take care of him. Big fan of his. And then Laredo and all the other people. And I got turned down for jobs in Edinburgh and was it Harlingen or something like that?
Harlingen. That's where my mom is from.
Well, whatever. I got turned down for jobs over there because I was 0 for 22 on TV jobs. So I just know that those spots were like...
Yo.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I sucked, though. My tape was terrible. Like, I went to junior college, so I was teaching myself how to make a tape on my own. So I got... Of course I got turned out because the reel sucked. But it's cool. It all worked out for the better. And and now I'm living the dream with Mireya Villarreal.
Living the dream.
There
Look at that.
All right, we'll get you some bourbon. We'll get you some bougie prosecco or whatever it's called. And I swear you're like my sisters with the little half white kid. My mom takes care of like the little white kids. So my sister, the youngest one, we're 7 kids. So like the youngest one, the little white kids come over and it's like we harassed him a lot. Well, actually, I do. And it's like, man, poor kids. Like Annette. Oh, I just said her name. Whatever. She doesn't watch. Like Annette. Like your kids need some flavor. Like leave them with me because they're gonna be fine because they can't go be all bougie.
Hey, you watch out because my kid eats salsa like a no he's Mexicano.
All right, good.
That boy, poof.
All right.
Oh yeah, for real. Like
I'm glad to hear that about Chewy. So he's all ready to go. All right, as always, CBS national news correspondent Mireya Villarreal. You got to come back on real soon. We'll do it again. You guys can go follow her. And if you're in the business and if you're just starting out and you want to reach out to Mireya, I know that she's more than willing to help you out, especially as a mentor. And if you don't take advantage of that, well, then that's your own fault. So, Mireya, gracias por todo. We'll talk to you soon. As always, thanks for another edition of Living the Dream. Make sure you guys rate, review, subscribe, all that other good stuff. And share alike. And just, you know what, Mireya, you were so good. I'm never going to bring on anybody else from CBS. That's it. CBS exclusive. Done. It's done. I'm never going to bring on another Mexican reporter from CBS ever again.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait. How did you? Wait. Hold on.
You're the only Mexican.
That's true. I think I'm the only Mexican.
Yeah. So I won't bring another one on.
Okay. All right. That seems like I'm getting a weird deal here, but okay, sure.
It's an exclusive. The Mireya exclusives. Gracias. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Ed.
Hold on.